Hi, and welcome back to this section on errors and exceptions. So this is where we ended the last video, and in this video we say that we are going to look at something about the finally so that we can see where you can use the finally. So if I come back here to this notes, you'll see that in this example here we have the try section whereby you put the code that you want to try, and then you have the catch where you put the code that will handle any errors, the errors that occur in the try block. Then down here we also have finally. So what is finally? Finally, this is run after the try and the catch blocks have been run. So after you run this and before anything down here is run, the finally block is always run. So let's say, for example, that you're opening a file, right? So in Node and other server-side JavaScript languages, you have access to files. So if you maybe open a file and you want to close that file here, whether an error happens or anything or what you need done has already been done. So if the file was open here and then an error occurs, you may decide to handle the error here, and then finally you will want to close that file, whether everything worked out well or there was an error. So you can do things like that here. You can close the error. Anything that you want to do, you will put in the finally. So if there is anything that you just want to make sure that your code works out well, and you want to make sure that even if any error occurs, you want everything to go well, you'll put it in the finally blocks. So the finally section is always run after the try and the catch, but before anything else that follows the try and the catch. This will always return the last thing of the try, catch, finally block. So the try, catch, finally block, this usually has like three possibilities. So it can be a try catch, so a try and a catch, or it can be a try and just a finally, a try and a finally, or it can be all three, which is a try, catch, and finally. So like the example we did here, this was try. Initially it was try catch. Let's take it back to the try catch. Now it can be a try what is in here, and if an error occurs, come down here to the catch block. So if you remember this alerted the error for us, and we say that this is just a variable that holds the error that we get from the try block. And then we have said that this can have three possible structures. It can be a try catch, it can be a try finally. So let's try and run it as a try finally and see what happens. This is only available for the catch, okay? Note that. So here in the finally, we can maybe just use a custom error and say enter a number. So if you want to use the finally block to handle the error, you can just put whatever code you want to put in there. Maybe you can bring out a form for them to input a number. So in this case, let's just alert enter a number. Run, and that will say enter a number because an error occurred. And the error we had is the error of reference error. So also we can have, so we've seen the try and the catch. Let's take this back to a catch, and then you can also have a finally down here. Finally, and in our finally we can alert something also and just say Control V, all done. So it can be try and a catch, or the block can be try and a finally, or it can be try, catch, and finally. All of them can be here, and we know that this is run the last before anything that follows here is run, and after this have both been run. So if I run this, run it, and we see we have the catch will say there's a reference error, num is not defined. Then it also runs the finally. So you can use the finally section just to make sure that everything is fine, and if there is any resource that you want to close, you can close it in the finally, or if there is anything that you want to do just to make sure that everything is fine, you can do it in the finally block. So another thing that I saw here and I didn't talk about is this. In case of an exception, control shifts to the catch or finally, otherwise it will be skipped. So what that means is, if an error occurs here, if there is any code after this, you have some code here. As soon as the error occurs here, the interpreter, the execution doesn't care what comes next. It will automatically, immediately go to the catch block or the finally block if the catch is not there. And if there is some code up here, it will run all the code which is up here, but as soon as it hits this error, it is going to transfer control immediately to the catch block or the finally block if the catch is not there. So that's what this statement means. But if there is no error, then everything will just work out correctly and we're going to skip this completely. The try, if there is no error, everything just runs fine. We're going to skip this. Let's say maybe that's 3. Let's make it 4. And let's run this so that we can see that as an example. If I run that and I come back to the browser, you see it just gives us 16 and it also gives us the finally block. So this is always run. This is always run whether there's an error or no error. So you can put something here. Actually, it's just best to put the expected result here so that if any error occurs, it will get handled here, and if no error occurs, then the finally block will give us the output that you expected. So in reiteration, if an error occurs, as soon as an error is hit, it will transfer control to catch or the finally block, and then the finally block is always run, and it comes after the catch and the try block and before whatever is down here. Whichever code you have down here is run. So I hope you understand this and you can play around with this and just see examples. You can do different things. If you want to create a function that maybe does addition, you can change that and see which kind of errors you can have in here, and then you can alert different errors. Maybe you can even alert a custom error here. So that's it for this video. I will see you in the next video, and if you have any questions, just make sure you let me know.